YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Today's video is going to be a video talking about everything great about Avataro Sentai Donbrothers so far, and why you should watch it, or why you should give it a chance. I did one of these, or maybe two of these, last year for Zenkaiger because I feel like it was a series that did take me by surprise with how enjoyable it could be, and a lot of people were apprehensive about it, and I think there's some similar feelings with Donbrothers. I felt kind of the same way right at the beginning. I liked Zenkaiger okay. It kind of got on my nerves after a while. I was ready to be done. It looked like Donbrothers was going to basically just going to be continuing that series. I mean, obviously it's literally continuing it with some sequel-esque elements, although to be honest, it's fairly standalone right now. But it looked like it was going to be literally continuing it, but also it looked like it was going to be continuing the spirit and style of Zenkaiger, which kind of exhausted me, because while I didn't outright hate Zenkaiger, I was looking forward to a tonal refresh, and I wasn't looking forward to the purgatory of 2 years of similar horn-honking nonsense. But now that we're in Donbrothers, it's actually quite different than I thought, and quite a pleasant surprise, and in a way it actually reminds me of Serialized, not in terms of similar to that show specifically, but a lot about what Donbrothers does actually reminds me of what I liked when I first got into Sentai, because it actually has some more interesting storytelling and characters despite its appearances. While it does continue some of the silly fun and elements of Zenkaiger, it's actually quite different, and I think if you were apprehensive about Donbrothers because you thought it looked too silly or weren't interested in Zenkaiger 2.0, you'll be pleasantly surprised that it's not that. As far as the Zenkaiger elements go, to be honest, as of this recording, which we are in around when the Sixth Ranger debuted, the Zenkaiger stuff has been very minimal, outside of the aesthetics of the Morphers and the, Juran showing up for the first mecha formation and Zenkaiser Black existing. There isn't a lot of Zenkaiger stuff in there, so also if you happen to be worried about, do I need to watch Zenkaiger to enjoy this? As of right now, no. Who knows, the second half could have deep lore that you might need to watch it for, but there's actually very little of it going on. It's actually kind of a mystery, and I'm kind of curious to see how it connects more, but as of right now, there's not a lot of that going on. Like I mentioned, every now and then there is a bit of that silly spirit there, but it's very much different. A good reason, I would say one of the main reasons to watch it, and something great about it, is the story. I really enjoy the story of this series. I think they do a good job of actually having a fairly serialized story for a Sentai, and almost every episode will build on the story in some way. To be fair, Zenkaiger also did that, but Donbrothers I think does a little bit better because they usually have more significant story chunks. And there's also multiple stories going on. I think they all interweave in some way, but there's kind of multiple different threads to follow. So each episode will follow up on that to some degree, and it makes the show easy to invest in because each episode you're like, ooh, I wonder what's happening there. Another thing that's great about it as far as the story goes too is it's actually kind of structured differently. There's a lot of talk about Sentai trying to innovate these last 2 seasons with the aesthetics and whatnot, which is definitely true. I felt with Zenkaiger that it was largely superficial and it was pretty basic Sentai stuff outside of the aesthetics. And Donbrothers definitely isn't going to revolutionize the Sentai game, but in comparison to more recent season structure, it's actually fairly unique. It's actually funny because the unique way they look, while it is, well, unique, isn't the thing I think that makes the series the most unique. I think it's the structure of the storytelling and the way that you don't have all the characters together immediately and interacting. There's this slow build to them all meeting each other and discovering each other, and even the structure of how they tell the stories about them. You might focus just on these 2 Rangers here, or maybe just this one really, and it kind of makes the episodes feel different, and it doesn't make every episode feel as repetitive as Sentai can feel. For the most part, in most Sentais, you can draw out a map of how 80% of the episodes are going to go. And I think structure-wise, Donbrothers presents itself as rather fresh. And going into that, another reason to watch it, and another reason I think it's really good, is the characters. I think thus far they've done a really good job with the characters. I was really worried about them being cartoons and just these one-note characters, and surprisingly I think they've all been good. Some get more focused than others as per usual, but I think we have a general grasp on what each of these characters' motivation and character traits are, and I think they've done a good job of fleshing them out, at least the ones that are getting the focus so far, and I find myself liking them all and being investing in all of them to varying degrees. And I think that there is some silly classic Toku characterness to them, but I think there's some surprising grounded elements to them. I think especially with Kiji brother and Inoue brother, there is some, outlandish elements to their story, but their story about the wife-girlfriend feels very grounded, and it makes the characters feel very real. Same thing with like Don Momotaro, who thankfully isn't as like an obnoxious, shrieking red lead, but he is a bit of that classic Sentai Red type. but it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's not like a Karame Red situation where I actually really like him, but it's one of those situations where it's not as bad as I thought, and I think the angle they're playing his character is really interesting. Because while he isn't as obnoxious of a Red, he does have those characteristics of the, the most specialist Red in all the world that can do no wrong, and yet you actually have the characters in the world reacting realistically to that, where he kind of grew up and still faces people not liking him because of his attitude. And I think that's kind of, maybe it has something to do with Legend of Momotaro. I am zero familiar with that, which is what the series is based off of. But I think just in the context of Sentai Reds and that type of personality you'll have, usually you have the Red Ranger acting like an insane person and being perfect in everything, and everyone basically worshiping them, like they're shouting potato salad in their face, and they're like, that's why he's the best. I'm like, what are you talking about? The dude's nuts. I think it's kind of interesting to have this perspective of having the Red Ranger character be that type of red, and yet people are reacting realistically. You actually have a little bit of that similar stuff going on there with Gold as well. I think the characters are another strong reason to watch the show. Also, just superficially, I mean, I think the designs and, the action of the show are all pretty good. This is a list of reasons to watch it, but just for a small negative, I do think that the avatar changes are rather superficial and unneeded, and the little mini-bot transformations, the alters or whatever, are rather unneeded. Like, it's all there to sell toys, guys, but these really feel like it. But outside of that, the suits have really grown on me. The action can be really fun and unique. Once you get past the CGI, you just kind of treat it like any other bad-looking Toku effect. And the mecha in particular, I like the way they rolled that out. I think the Robotaro designs look awesome. The mecha looks awesome. The mecha fights look awesome. I love that they can fight on the ground. It makes it unique. And there's the fact that we were presented it differently. It gives a little bit of a unique flair. So that is all the reasons that I think Avataro Sentai Donbrothers has been pretty great so far, and why you should maybe give it a chance if you're apprehensive. The plot and characters have been great. The action's been solid. It hasn't been a revolutionary Sentai, but it's been a lot different than I thought. And I'm glad that I didn't give up on it before it even started. And even though it's continuing things from Zenkaiger, which presents an interesting element of mystery actually, it is not Zenkaiger 2.0. It has some of its spirit, but it's very much its own thing. But until next time, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.